Space, the final frontier. This is the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. Its mission to explore the solar system, to seek out new observations and data, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. And now the host of the Observer's Notebook, Tim Robertson.
Hello and welcome to episode 177 of the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. I'm Tim Robertson, the host of the Observer's Notebook, and also the coordinator of the training program within the ALPO. Thanks for downloading and listening. The Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers collects and analyzes various observations of various solar system bodies and associated phenomenon, and publishes detailed reports concerning these bodies in its quarterly publication, the Journal of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers, also known as the Strolling Astronomer. This podcast depends upon donations from you, our listeners, to keep it going. If you enjoy what you hear in the podcast, you can donate to it via Patreon. You can start off by giving as little as $1 a month. If you feel even more generous, for $5, you receive early access to the podcast before it goes public. For a monthly donation of $10, you receive a copy of the Novice Observer's Handbook. And for $35 a month, you receive producer credits on the podcast. You can find out more by going to www.patreon.com/Observer's Notebook. And if you'd like to join the ALPO, membership begins at only $22 a year. For more information, find us on www.alpo-astronomy.org. And you can also find us on Facebook. Just search for ALPO Astronomy. And this podcast also has a Facebook page as well. Just search for Observer's Notebook. And if you enjoy what we hear in the podcast, please subscribe. That way you'll never miss another episode. And now, we're going to talk meteor showers. And that must mean we're talking to Bob Lunsford. Enjoy. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody back to this edition of the Observer's Notebook podcast. And we're going to talk meteor showers again, and that means we got Bob Lunsford here. Welcome back, Bob.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
We're right in the middle of meteor season, and it's time to get excited. We got one biggie coming up and a couple that could be interesting.
Yeah.
So I'd like to introduce folks to the Geminids. Actually, I got some news on the Geminids. There was a very minor shower discovered recently by video means called the Theta Aurigates. And we go to find out that they have basically the same path in the sky as the Geminids.
Really?
So a little more studying of that actually reveals that this shower is the early portion of the Geminids. So instead of having just a 2-week period for the Geminids, they now extend for over a month.
Oh, my goodness.
November 19th all the way to December 24th.
So same radiant and everything?
Well, same source, let's say
okay,
that.
All right.
Yeah. But like I said, they were called the Theta Aurigates because in November, the Geminid radiant actually lies in the constellation of Auriga. So if you're out early, then it won't be near the bright star Castor like it will be at Maxima. The Geminids, as do most showers, move about 1 degree eastward per day.
Okay.
So if you're out 2 weeks, but prior to the Geminid radiant, the actual source of these meteors will be about 14, 15 degrees west of where you normally are seeing them.
Okay. Now, you mentioned this was discovered video?
By video means, right.
So how do you do that?
Well, they have programs now that record meteors basically not quite as sharp as the eye. They can probably only get down to 4th magnitude, unless these have a CCD imager. Then you can get down quite a bit dimmer. But what they do is they're able to track all these meteors they see during the night, and they've noticed that in late November there's a weak radiant that lies near the star Theta Auriga. So they're able to follow these meteors as December approaches, and they found out that it blends perfectly in with the start of the Geminids.
Wow.
So it ties right in with the Geminid meteor showers, and this has happened with a couple others. A lot of the old time lists only go for less than a week or so, but through the use of video data, we've been able to extend it for a long time. In fact, there's one fairly minor shower called the Coma Berenices, and we've been able to track that shower from early December all the way into February. And before it had 3 different names to it. Stretching from Leo Minor into Virgo.
Oh my!
So now it's named Coma Berenices. That's basically where it lies on the night of maximum activity. But like I said, the path of activity starts in Leo Minor and stretches all the way to Virgo in February. So that's pretty crazy stuff.
It is.
Anyway,
now the Geminids. So, are we going to rename these other possible or showers?
Oh yeah, the Theta Regis is no longer valid.
Okay.
It's like I said, it's just an extension of the Geminids.
Wow.
So the Geminids now have a longer period than they appear in most notebooks now.
Yeah, because the Geminids have always been a big meteor shower.
Oh yeah, and they still are.
Yeah.
This really doesn't change anything. It actually just adds a few more meteors to the to the overall total.
Okay.
It's not a whole lot. We're only seeing the very fringes of the Geminid meteors. So we're talking on November 19th, the rate's probably 1 per night.
Okay.
And then as we approach December, it'll approach 1 per hour, and then it'll, peak at hopefully 60 or more on the morning of the 14th.
Okay.
But anyway, Geminids peaked on the 14th, and in 2023, the new moon's going to occur on December 12th. So 2 days before the maximum of the shower.
Nice.
Therefore, the moon will set just after dusk, so not a problem at all.
Great.
So we'll have totally dark skies. And unlike most showers, the Geminid radiant rises shortly after it gets dark in the evening. So you can see Geminid meteors just as soon as it gets dark. You won't see very many because a good portion of them are hidden by the horizon because they're shooting in all directions. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them are shooting straight down, which is blocked, and shooting along the horizon, which may be blocked by hills or trees. So you're only seeing a small fraction of the actual activity at that time of day. But the ones you do see that shoot upward are called earth grazers because at that time they're just grazing the upper portions of the atmosphere. So at that time, that means that these meteors are going to be longer and longer in duration and longer in length. Some will stretch half the sky and last for a couple of seconds, whereas your normal Geminid is less than a second and very short duration and length, only 5 degrees. Okay. So last year I was out early and caught several of these, and they would stretch 45, 50 degrees.
Oh my!
And it's very cool.
Yeah, how bright are these meteors?
Well, you know what? They tend to be on the dim side, but when you see one, dim, we're talking 3rd or 4th magnitude.
Okay. All right.
So you have to be looking in the general direction, and I don't know the reason for that. Maybe because they normally appear close to the horizon, so I'm sure the atmospheric extinction has some role into that. So they normally it will appear low in the south or low in the north, shooting from the east. Every now and then, though, you'll get one that shoots overhead, and that's the one that makes you shout out loud.
Now, is the Geminids related to a comet?
No, actually, it's related to an asteroid. Oh. And the asteroid's name is Phaethon, and only discovered in the 1980s.
Oh my!
So they're calling this this asteroid kind of a rock comet because it's had a tail when it's at perihelion and close to the sun. But the tail is not made of dust. It's made of sodium. So people are still scratching their heads of what the kind of debris we're actually seeing from this. Most likely, it's tiny little grains of stone but no dust and probably no ice.
Wow.
So uncommon-like, because most of the other comets we're seeing is a high proportion of ice.
Right.
So. Yeah, and like I said, that was the first the first meteor shower associated with an asteroid. So it has a very short period too, and I've actually seen it in my little 9-inch telescope, which was very cool because I could actually see it minute by minute passing some stars within the field of view cool. There. So yeah, that was kind of nice to associate that with the Geminid meteor shower. Anyway, like I said, you can start seeing them early in the evening, and you'll see more activity as the radiant rises in the eastern sky. Now, the radiant's best placed between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning when it lies overhead from our latitudes here. That's probably the best time to see them. If you observe from home in a suburban environment, you probably see 30 to 40 an hour, about one every other minute. If you make the effort to drive to dark skies, though, you can double that count and see an average of 1 per minute. And the reason for that, most Geminid meteors are on the dim side. In fact, if you could go beyond 6 magnitude into the really faint stuff, you would have storms that equal the old Leonid ones because majority of this mass is so small that it's invisible to our eye. But if you could see down to 10th magnitude, you would see 10 meters per minute easily. So, like I said, the more stars you can see, the more meteors you'll see.
Yeah.
So if you have a spot where you could safely watch in dark skies, by all means do it.
Sounds good.
Now, the Geminids also are visible into the morning hours, right up to dawn. Even when it starts to get light, the radiance about 20 degrees high in the west. So I'm not suggesting you stay out for 12 hours. You probably turn into a popsicle. Yeah. But they are, for folks who only can observe right before dawn, they'll still be active at a slightly less rate due to the altitude of the radiant will be lower.
Okay.
So, but you have good and bad for all. For early in the evening, you can see a little activity, but with nice long meteors. At 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, it lies almost overhead, and you can see them shooting all over the place. And early in the morning, a little bit less, but still quite active. I got to mention a photograph I received from South Africa. Mm-hmm. Actually, the Geminids are visible there, but it only clears the horizon by about 10 degrees. So this photograph captured about a dozen Geminid meteors, and they were all Earth grazers, real long, and coming right from almost on the horizon. And wow, that was really a cool shot. So it can be visible, South Africa, Australia, but it doesn't even rise until midnight there. So they have much less activity, but it is visible.
Okay.
So if any of our pod people are listening from down under, give it a shot.
Great.
So I think we've about covered that. And
okay. Now we got a couple of the meteor showers you want to discuss.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. As we approach Christmas, there is a meteor shower called the Ursids. Now, there's been some debate about this one, whether it actually is a major shower or so. And, I've been out and I've seen less than 1 per hour on the night of maximum. And I've also been out and I've seen I've seen 24 per hour. So it's really a shot in the dark, basically, what you're going to see. Most of the time, you can depend on maybe 5 or 10 per hour during the morning of maximum. This one's scheduled to peak on that will be December 23rd, which is a Friday night, Saturday morning. So your best bet would be to go out as late as possible on Saturday morning, because that's when the radiant lies highest in the sky. This radiant is actually located in the Little Dipper, very close to the second magnitude star known as Kochab. And unfortunately, that lies right on the horizon, or low, during the evening hours, but it does swing upwards, and it's about 30 to 40 degrees before it gets light. That's one reason you're not going to see a whole lot, especially when compared to the Geminids. But they are visible, and they do have a surprise every now and then. And once again, I observed those 24 per hour from dark skies. So, and most of them were probably 4th or 5th magnitude. So, if you can see those faint meteors, it may be worth it.
Okay.
And besides, you got nothing better to do right for Christmas. You know, all your shopping will be over. And
that's right.
You'll be just bored, just waiting for the big day to arrive, right?
That's right. That's right. Let's go out and look at meteor showers. Sounds like fun.
Amen. Okay. Swinging into the new year, we have one last fairly strong shower before the great dearth of meteor showers occur during the first quarter of the year. There's no major active showers, I should say, between the quadranates, which peak on January 4th, and the Lyrids, which peak on April 22nd. So, the sky gods are kind of good to us by not making us going out during the dead of winter to see these things. But on the other hand, this January 4th is not too toasty, believe me.
Right.
And the weather is usually crummy. And this particular shower is only really strong for about 6 hours. So if you're not in the right longitude, you're not going to see much. Okay. It's predicted, though, to peak on the morning of January 4th, which is Thursday, at 9 Universal Time, which for us folks on the West Coast is 1 o'clock in the morning. So that's not bad. It's low in the Northeast. If you live further east, you're even in better shape, because the quadrant radiant will actually lie higher in your sky. Now, this radiant lies in a really barren patch of sky between the handle of Big Dipper and the constellation of Boötes. So there's a big black spot there where there's no bright stars, and that's where these meteors come from. Okay. It's not really visible in the evening sky, because it is maybe less than 10 degrees. If you're up in Alaska, though, it may be about 30 degrees high. So that's a possibility. And that might be the time to look at it, because the moon is at last quarter on that same morning. So we can expect the moon to arise around midnight. That's not a killer, really, because the last quarter moon is much less light than the full moon. And if you have a tree that could block that moonlight, you'd be saving yourself a lot of headache, and save your night vision too. So your best strategy for observing the quadranets would be on the morning of January 4th. Okay. Go out, let's say 3 o'clock in the morning, or if you're on the West Coast, make that 1, and look toward the northeast, and keep that moon out of your field of view, and expect to see some meteors shooting upward from the northeastern horizon.
Beautiful. Now,
this shower also used to have a date from January 1 through 9. Same thing here. We've managed to extend it from December 26th to the 16th. So rates during those days, though, are very low. In December, it won't be more than a couple per night. Same thing for the last few days in that January period. So since the core of this particular shower is only 6 hours long, I would definitely circle January 4th and make that a priority. I forgot to mention that if you're clouded out on the morning of the Geminids, they still have very good rates on the morning before and the morning after. Right. So that's about it.
Okay. It sounds like technology has really improved observing meteor showers.
It sure has opened our knowledge to a lot, and it's able to help us predict exactly when these showers peak and their exact activity period. So it certainly does help us a lot. One thing is, though, like I said, they can't see the fainter meteors that your eye can. Mm-hmm. So if you can see down to fifth and sixth magnitude meteors, then you're doing better than these video recorders.
Okay. Now, is this like with an all sky camera?
All sky cameras are extremely wide angled, and their limiting magnitude is actually about 0. They won't get anything dimmer than just a bright meteor. So that's one advantage, that smaller field of view is that they can focus in on fainter meteors. I had one that had just a regular 50 millimeter camera lens. Mm-hmm. With a see how fast I think that was a 1.8, and I was able to get fourth magnitude meteors no problem. Okay. I currently have an array of 6 cameras, one looking straight up, and other 5 covering the rest of the sky down to about 20 degrees, and they cover about 40. I would say 40 degrees in elevation and maybe 70 degrees horizontally. So they cover a fairly good swath of the sky, and I regularly get fourth magnitude on those too. Okay. And that's through a dome, which is pretty darn good. Yeah. Wow. So it seems that the visual observer may be getting replaced, but there's still a lot of room for folks just to go outside and observe these. And there's some people that still plot. I don't plot anymore because the brighter meteors show up on my meteor camera, so I can compare what I see directly to the time that the meteor appeared and find it on my my meteor list of the night. So I don't plot anymore, but there's still people that do. And any information we can get is helpful. In fact, it's possible that observers can also discover new swarms. We're encountering these all the time, and everywhere that there's video cameras, it's not always clear. So it's still worthwhile. So you can still contribute to science by going outside and freezing your keister.
Now, do you run your cameras every night?
Yes.
Wow.
It's all automatic. So cloudy night, clear night, daytime, they're running 24 hours a day.
And does it have notification when a meteor comes in the field of view, or
actually not? I just have to go in and access it. So no, it won't beep or anything, but okay. There's probably some systems that do that.
Probably.
But just in the morning, I'll look at my list and say, "Wow, that was a nice one." And I only missed that one by 3 minutes because I packed my telescope in too early.
Well, you definitely have a passion for these, Bob.
Yeah, I love it. And you know what? Having a camera system doesn't make me feel as guilty as I used to, because I hate to wake waste clear skies, but sometimes you're just too pooped to go outside.
You have that last glass of wine at night, and you're like, I just can't do it tonight.
Yeah. So I'm still doing both. I'm out at least 30 nights a year. So. And, for me, it's just, get away from the rat race, enjoy the sounds of the night. We have owls out here every night of the year, and bunnies in the bushes that sound like bears,
Bunnies that sound like bears.
Well, when they're going through the bushes, you get all kinds of thoughts go through your head. What the heck was that?
That's funny. You see their beady eyes looking at you. All right.
Yeah, you shine your flashlight over there, and you see his little white cottontail. And
there we go. That's funny. That's funny.
Okay. On that note, we'll wrap it up. And 2024 looks like an interesting year too. So
we'll chat about the Lyrids early on.
We'll have to get into those. So it's been nice chatting to you, and we'll see you in a couple months.
All right, Bob. Take care.
Okay, my pleasure.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Observer's Notebook podcast. Again, I want to thank Bob Lunsford for coming on and give us an update on all the upcoming meteor showers. Write those dates down. Put them in your calendar. Get out there and observe. You'll love them. We upload a new episode of the Observer's Notebook on the 1st and 15th of every month. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. If you do, please give us a rating and a review. I really would appreciate that. You can also listen to us on Apple Radio, iHeartRadio, Soundcloud, Spreaker, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon, Echo, Spotify, and yes, this podcast is also on the ALPO YouTube channel. You can help support the podcast by donating to it via Patreon. You can give up to $35 a month, where you'll receive 1 year's membership to the ALPO and producer credits on the podcast. And with that, I want to thank the producers of this podcast, Steve Siedentop and Michael Moyer, for the generous support. The link for Patreon, as well as the link for the ALPO, is in the show notes. If you'd like to get a hold of me, my email address is commentman@commentman.net or on Twitter at ObserversNBPod. Until next time, I hope that you always have clear and steady skies. Thanks for listening.